One of the first things that I realized I didn't know was where the OBD2 plug was. I took it to AutoZone and asked them to see why the check engine light was on in my car, and they couldn't find it. I looked up pictures online and I still couldn't find it, and eventually I took it to this other shop that did free OBD2 computer scans, and they were like, oh, it's right here. And it was in a super obvious spot, and it was such an obvious spot that I made a video about it. It's one of my first videos on this channel about how to find the OBD2 plug on a NA Miata. It's kind of like tucked underneath where your knees are, or where your shins are, I guess. So another thing I didn't know is that regular gas works just as well, maybe even better than high octane gas. When I first got the car, I started by putting like 93 octane in the car every time I got new gas. And that's just because the idea was like, well, I want to treat my car well, right? So I better give it the best you can get. But then I read on forums and in the user manual that, like, no, you should just use regular gas. It's not going to make a difference. Some people even said that 93 octane might be worse for the performance of the engine. I don't quite understand gasoline chemistry well enough to know if that's true, but I just went back to using regular and it saved me quite a bit of money so far. And I haven't noticed any difference in the way the car performs, in the gas mileage, anything like that. So another kind of interesting thing that I've learned is that the style bar back here might actually be more dangerous than it is helpful. It's obviously not a roll bar, so it doesn't have any real protection, but someone sent me a picture of a style bar in a car in a Miata that had been flipped, and the style bar actually came forward and had broken the rear seat, or the rear headrests, which I don't know, made me reconsider it. I still haven't taken it off yet, mostly just because I've been too lazy to, but we'll see. And another thing is people who don't know cars, they tend to think this car is more expensive than it actually is. Because this is a cheap car. This is like $4,000. I paid $4,000 for this car, so it's not an expensive car. And a lot of people are like, oh, really? Seriously? You can get that for $4,000? And I'm like, well, yeah, it's like it's a 20-year-old car. Like, it's not anything special. I mean, it's well looked after, and it's definitely more exciting than what most people drive. But it is like an older car, and you don't get, I mean, it's loud in here. The sound system isn't that great. It doesn't have any navigation or anything. So yeah, I mean, it's a cheaper car. People who know cars, though, they know what this is, and nobody's surprised. They're like, oh, $4,000, all right, not bad. Another thing that I thought before I bought this car was, oh my gosh, how am I going to deal with having no cruise control? So it's not actually that bad. I've totally gotten used to it now. I mean, cruise control is always nice, but it's not nearly as bad as I thought it would be living without cruise control. So another thing I learned after buying this two-seater convertible is that there's no such thing as a leak-free soft top, at least amongst NA Miatas. Everybody who I've spoken to who owns an NA Miata, their soft top leaks at least a little bit. Mine is not that bad at all. It only leaks if you kind of power wash the car or if there's a really bad storm, but there's no such thing as a leak-proof soft top Miata, at least as far as I've found. Even though the Mazda Miata has a reputation of being a girl's car, most of the people I've seen who own these are men. And I mean, I don't know if I really expected, I guess I expected it to be a fairly even split, but I didn't expect the vast majority of Miata owners to be male. So that was one thing that surprised me, and maybe I should be less prejudiced with how I think about how cars play into gender stereotypes and things like that. So it's really opened my mind. When you're parked, you have to be careful about the fogginess of the rear window. So I accidentally scraped my bumper on a car that was parallel parked behind me because it was early in the morning. I got in my car, the rear window was fogged up from dew, and there was a white car parked behind me, and me and my just morning brain, I had completely forgotten that that car was behind me, and so I just put it in reverse, backed straight into the car right behind me. Luckily, it was an old Volvo, so there was no visible damage on that car, but I definitely chipped the paint on my rear bumper, and I don't know how difficult that's going to be to repair, but it really sucks. I was just kicking myself so hard for doing that. So you've got to make sure that there's nothing behind you, because when that plastic rear window is foggy, you can't see anything behind it. Another thing I'm slightly embarrassed by is the fact that I've been driving a manual car. I've been driving a manual transmission since I was 16, and I still don't know how to heel toe properly. I've been practicing, but I still don't quite have it down. Here, we'll try. I just can't quite rev match in a smooth enough way to say that I've really gotten the heel toe down, but I'll get to it eventually. Just got to keep practicing. So one more thing that I probably should have known when I bought this car, because everybody told it to me, was that it's not fast, at least not in a straight line. I mean, it's a small, it has like 130 horsepower when it was built, probably just rocking like 115 now, so it is what it is. That being said though, those same people who told me that the Miata isn't exactly fast were right about the fact that it is very fast around corners. By that I mean it handles very well. I mean, you can throw this thing around a corner faster than you can throw any front-wheel drive car. At least any front-wheel drive car that I've driven. And that's the benefit of rear-wheel drive, 50-50 weight distribution, lightweight, low to the ground. And that's what I love the most about this car, is the way it handles. It's small, light on its feet. It's like Denard Robinson. Actually, that's not right, because Denard Robinson was really fast acceleration. Anyways, it's like somebody who can, it's like a running back that's not very big, can cut really well, but doesn't have a lot of top-end speed. Somebody can tell me what running back that is. I just can't think of it at the moment. I'm gonna try this camera view. It's probably super unflattering, so I don't know if I'll keep it, but so excuse the unflattering picture. I didn't know that the battery was in the back, and I found this out when I knew it when I bought it and I put stuff in the trunk, but I kind of forgot about the fact that the battery was in the back until the first time I needed to jump start my car. I left the lights on overnight, which is another thing that I didn't know, is that you have to turn the lights off because they don't automatically turn off when you turn the car off. So you have to make sure you turn the lights off all the way, otherwise your battery will go dead. And that has happened to me multiple times, which is why I have a starter pack that I bought for 70 bucks, because that's how many times I've ended up with a dead battery, and I've already had to replace the battery once. So that's a little bit embarrassing and something that I need to get better at. But anyways, yeah, I didn't know